Pacific Division betting preview brought to you by the one, the only First Round Collectibles. Right now with our promo code SportsAddict, get 10% off whatever sports card you want in the entire First Round Collectibles store. What's your favorite card? What's your favorite sport, rather? Hockey, football, basketball, baseball, wrestling, maybe even boxing, whatever you want, they got it at firstroundcollectibles.com. Use our promo code SportsAddict for 10% off whatever card you want in the entire store. That's the number one. STRoundcollectibles.com. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans.
Yeah. Let's go. We just gotta go hard. I go the hardest. I bring the pain. Not what you used to. It's all part of the game. Yeah. I just gotta go hard. I just gotta go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Yeah. Oh yeah.
And welcome to Pucks Across Borders on Sports Addict Live and our good friends at Total Apex Sports. Brought to you, of course, by First Round Collectibles. Use promo code Sports Addict for 10% off whatever card you want in the entire First Round Collectibles store. www.firstroundcollectibles.com. Andre, good to see you, man. 2 days in a row. We're getting back into the swing of things. Not quite every day yet, but we're getting close. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, good to see you. Back in the groove a little bit. Regular season's underway officially. May not feel like it yet, but it's a good time to be alive.
100%. Yeah, it is weird. We said this yesterday. It is weird literally watching an NHL regular season game right now. And I'm preparing for a Leaf preseason game tonight. It's a little bit strange, but you know what? It is what it is. So this game is literally starting like as we speak. We'll quickly go through the odds for it. This is obviously pregame, so the odds will shift as the game gets started. The New Jersey Devils -142, the Buffalo Sabres +116. Here we go. Buffalo Sabres +1.5 is -205. New Jersey Devils -1.5 is +168. The over is 6.5 -105. The under is -120. What's your lean on this game as we get started? Devin Levi is in net for the Sabres. I didn't see if Markstrom's getting the back-to-back. We'll keep an eye on it, but we'll see.
I'm recording. Sorry about that.
You're good, man.
I don't know. Levi instantly, stands out as the better goalie here. That was kind of harsh. Levi's the better goalie, I would say. So my lean would be towards Buffalo, but I know offensively, Jersey's on a completely different level. You kind of got a glimpse of that yesterday. It's in Europe. You'd think they'd split. I think I'm going to lean towards the Devils taking this one, though.
Yeah,
taking the over, though. Yesterday I was on the under. I'm taking the over today for sure.
Yeah, that's where you yesterday you don't really know what you're getting into, and you would think they would split 1-1. I'll tell you something though, and I thought this was really funny. So yesterday, if you watch the game, the Devils controlled at least the first two periods, and maybe Buffalo played I think Buffalo had more shots, perhaps. But if you watch the game, you saw the Devils controlled the first two periods, and Buffalo kind of got their act together in the third period. But did you know about this? I think it's moneypuck.com. I think. I could be wrong on that website. I think that's what it is. They have a deserve to win-o-meter. A deserve to win-o-meter. Have you seen this?
Oh, yeah, it's very notorious in the Rangers world because the Rangers never deserve to win. So yeah, I'm very familiar with it.
I think this is a perfect tool for Buffalo and Ottawa and like teams like this, where if you're a fan at home, you're like, yeah, we got smoked, but you know what? We deserve to win. It's all like analytical and they add all these different stats together. But I thought that was so funny. And there's a Toronto sports media guy here who said after the game yesterday, he's like, I know it's just one game, but I'm out on Buffalo. I'm out. So that's kind of what we saw. So there it is. The live odds plus 118 now for Buffalo, minus 150 for the Devils. Pretty much where it was yesterday. All right, man. Unless you got more to add about, I'll say this too. If you're a Devils fan, right, you get a new coach, get new goaltenders. I know it's just one game, but Markstrom looked good yesterday, man. He made a save that might be one of the top 10 saves by the time the season's done. He looked really good. So if you're a Devils fan, it's just one game, but hey, the new goalie, like you have a goalie now, and he played really well yesterday.
Yeah, that was their biggest need. That's what they asked for. They got it, at least in game one. So, I mean, so far so good. That's how you want to start a new regime, right?
Yeah, you got a new goalie. 12 months too late, but hey, you're here now. So it is what it is. All right, let's dive in. We got one more division to break down in our division full betting preview. The Pacific Division we start with today, and let's start. The defending Western Conference champions, 1 goal away, or I guess 2 goals away, but 2 goals away, 1 win away from winning the Stanley Cup last year. Clear favorites in almost every single category, including the Stanley Cup, which is at plus 850, the conference plus 390, the division plus 115, the playoffs minus 1100 to miss the playoffs plus 600, points 107.5, minus 122 to go over the number, and minus 104 to go under the number. Last year, the Oilers were 49, 27, and 6, 104 points. And I guess that number at 107 is basically saying the first month and a half of the year last year was a complete wash. And they're riding the momentum, and they're going to get, if they got 104 points with a bad start to the year, what are they going to do if they start on the right foot? In the Edmonton Oilers, Jeff Skinner, Victor Arvidsson, Ty Emberson, Matthew Savoy, Pod Console. I don't know why I do this to myself with these names. Josh Brown and Colin Delia. And players out, I guess, Ryan McLeod, Warren Fogle, Cody Ceci, Jack Campbell, Vincent Desharnais, Philip Broberg, Dylan Holloway, and Sam Carrick. Where are you at with this Edmonton Oilers 24-25 team?
Yeah, I mean, Vegas, and I think pretty much most of the world is expecting that what Coach Knobloch did when he took over with the team is going to carry over, that the goaltending is going to resemble more the latter stages of last season in the postseason than it did that first month or two. And that, the 2 best scorers in the world, the best power play in the league is going to do its thing and take the Oilers far again. And it's not a far-fetched idea. It's actually a very reasonable idea. I think this is a team that not easily, but I'd say this is a team that gets like 108 plus points, right? And 110, you would think, if they have a solid start, or they get off to a great start again. That was the downfall last year. They were climbing uphill from October until June, until Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. So, I mean, they get a good start. They go downhill. They're attacking, which is what they want to do, like on the ice, and then I guess just in the locker room in general. it's going to be a lot easier for him. I think with the goaltending they showed at the end of last year, this team should win the division, should win the conference, probably should win the cup, honestly. But it's a long journey. It's a grueling journey. So it's going to be interesting to see how far they go. I would sprinkle division and conference for sure, though, on this team. The odds aren't the greatest. You'd have to pay up a little, but the Oilers, like last year, they're cruising into one of the top Western Conference spots in the playoffs, and they're going to be a tough out yet again, especially if they play the Kings, because it's free. Pass.
Well, we're gonna get to the Kings later, bro. I don't understand the love on this team. I'm not about the Kings at all. I don't know. I can't remember. I know we did our like division power rankings, and quite frankly, I don't remember where you had them, and I don't remember where I had them. But I don't like them. But that's a different conversation. We'll get to it in a few minutes. Yeah, I mean, for me, quite frankly, like let's just be honest. Like to me, this is a better roster than it was last year, in my opinion. Like, you're a bit older. I think they're like the oldest team in the league, or up there for one of the oldest teams in the league now with the people that they added. Jeff Skinner, I wouldn't say over the hill. Clearly older, production has gone down, but he's been playing for the Buffalo Sabres for the last how many years. He's on a Stanley Cup contender for the first time in his career. We've joked about how, he's never made it to the playoffs. When Carolina traded him, they made it to the playoffs like the next year, and then he went to Buffalo, and they haven't made it to the playoffs. And so if the Oilers missed the playoffs, we clearly know Jeff Skinner's a problem. We made that joke in the past. I mean, Skinner, Arvidsson clearly make this team better right off the bat. Matthew Savoy, I don't know if he's going to make the team out of camp, but he's a really, really, really good young prospect that it might not be this year, but for years to come, he's going to be huge on this team. I mean, Nugent Hopkins, McDavid, obviously, Hyman, Skinner, Draisaitl, Arvidsson. That's a really good top six unit. Like, that's really, really strong. Janmark, Henrique, Brown on that bottom, on that third line. The defense, I guess some question marks still. Ekholm is still a stud defenseman. Bouchard, Nurse having his ups and downs. So I guess if you want to attack one part of the roster, it is the defense. In the goaltending, I mean, Skinner, like, I guess there's a question still if this guy can continue to do it, if he's still the guy. Last year, he was phenomenal, and in the playoffs, like, he had his rough nights, but in the playoffs, he was really, really good for large stretches of that playoff. So for me, I see what the books are doing here, and I agree with it. I would take the over, minus 122. That's a lot of points. I can see it going under, but I think the logic is valid. Like, if they had 104 points last year with an awful start, why can't they get 108 points, 110 points? I can absolutely see that. And yeah, man, I'm in on all of it. The Stanley Cup, the conference, the division. I do wonder, it probably wouldn't make that much of a difference, but I do wonder, as the season goes on, you might get a better price on the conference and the division. Maybe they do start slow and Vancouver starts hot, Vegas starts hot, maybe Colorado, Dallas start hot. You might get a better price on the conference and the division as the season goes on. But I would absolutely take the over here on the points. And the Stanley Cup, yeah, man, I mean, they were right there. Historically, it's hard to get back to the finals after you get there, but we've literally seen Tampa and Florida do it multiple like occasions in the last 5 years, right? So it's, I mean, historically, it might be a stretch, but in recent history, it's been done every year for the last 5 years. Like there's always been, to my knowledge, I mean, besides the Vegas, Florida year, but you get my point. So, yeah, that's my take on that one. All right. Speaking of the Vegas Golden Knights, we move on to the Vegas Golden Knights. Stanley Cup plus 1,400, conference plus 700. To win the division is plus 350, playoffs minus 330, to miss the playoffs plus 240, points 99.5, minus 104 is the over, the under is minus 122. Last year, the Knights were 45, 29, and 8 with 98 points. In Victor Olofsson, Ilya Samsonov, Robert Hagg, Kyle Burke, Schmid, Holtz, Aston Reese. Players out: Jonathan Marchessault and Logan Thompson, Martinez, Carrier, Stevenson. I mean, those are pretty key parts of that team. I don't think that can be understated. What do you see from the 24-25 Vegas Golden Knights?
Yeah, I'm a little stunned that their point total is under 100, honestly. I guess, they're 99 in that. When you think about Vegas, especially during the regular season, which the point total is about the regular season, it's always about injuries, or phantom injuries, if you will, and focus with this team. The postseason is when you feel more comfortable with them than the regular season. The question is, are they actually going to play well enough for long enough to make the postseason? That was definitely the thing last year. They had 98 points last year, and they were just so banged up for most of the year, and they played absolutely terrible for a couple of stretches. Then they got to the postseason, and they were up, 2-0 on the Stars, the top seed in the West. I mean, yep. I feel a lot better saying the Golden Knights will win the conference than I do saying they'll win the division or even make the playoffs. Kind of weird, but that's who they've been to me. For the point total, you just got to assume. I mean, the core, like you said, is thinner. The top six is still nasty, but at this point, you kind of expect one or two of them to miss a long stretch. I think I would lean under on the points. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to win a playoff series. This is a tough out. They have, good goaltending. They have top line scoring. It's a good team. It's just the regular season. It's really weird for an expansion franchise at that. It seems like they coast through the regular season. So I don't really trust that point total.
Yeah, I mean, the expansion thing, they kind of ruined it for the rest of the teams coming in now, because that whole thing was like the NHL being like, we're gonna make it successful here, and they kind of kind of set them up for success really early. I'm with you for the most part. I'm curious. When it comes to Vegas, like I do see some thin spots on the forward end. I do think having Hurdle as your third line center, if that is where he's slotted, that's how Puckpedia has him projected right now. If that is where he's slotted, that's a really good third line center. Like to have Thomas Hurdle there, but Barbashev, Eichel, Olofsson, Stone, that's four really good players in your top six. They just signed Tanner Pearson. He is projected to be on the third line again, according to Puckpedia. What I'm really interested in, I think that their defensive core, as it is getting older, so you do have to wonder about that. But Theodore Petriangelo, Hannafin, McNabb, that's four really, really good defensemen. White Cloud has really proved himself over the last couple of years as well. And in goaltending, so to me, their defensive unit is one of the stronger units in the Pacific, maybe the conference. To me, the goaltending is where it's really interesting. Aiden Hill not only did not have a good year last year, he also was hurt for a lot of the year. So if he can come back to what he was a couple of years ago on that Stanley Cup run, and in the regular season as well, and Ilya Samsonov as their backup, I think Logan Thompson was a really trustworthy backup goaltender. When Hill wasn't in and you had Logan Thompson, you weren't really worried about it. I'd be a little worried about it now with Ilya Samsonov. That being said, Samsonov is a really emotional player and really in his head a lot and really like rides the waves of the like ups and the downs. If he's only responsible for 35 games, I think that's a really, really good spot for him. He's a good goaltender. He had some great moments here in Toronto. So for me, if Samsonov's only being counted on for 35 games, I think that's a great spot for him. So the goaltending, I do think, shapes up nicely, but everything kind of has to go their way. And I think the defense is really good. So to me, losing Marchessault, that's 40 goals. Stevenson, that's, 20 plus goals. They didn't replace that. Right? Thomas Hertl's a good player, but he's not scoring 65 goals this year. So that's the one thing that I am curious about. I'd probably lean under the points as well. But again, we're asking them to be just a couple games better than they were last year, and I don't think that's out of the range of possibility. I do think I'm hearing what you're saying about the conference. I do think the division, if you're looking for a longer shot bet to win the division, maybe the Oilers stub their toe a little bit here and there, or maybe Vegas is just really, really good. I do think plus 350 is a really good price for this team to win the division. A team like Vegas, with the team that they've been the last couple of years, you would think that price would be a little bit shorter. So for them to be plus 350, I actually don't hate that price for the division.
Interesting. I'm surprised by that a little.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I just think like the goaltending is really good, the defense is really good, and the real question to me is just the bottom six of the forward roster. I don't know. I do think that the Oilers will win the division, but if you're looking for something long shot, I don't think that's the worst bet. All right, moving on to the team that I want to talk about the least out of this entire Pacific Division, and that's saying something considering the Anaheim Ducks and the San Jose Sharks are pretty much have the exact same awful odds when it comes to everything. The Los Angeles Kings plus 2,300 to win the Stanley Cup, plus 1,100 to win the conference, plus 550 to win the division. To make the playoffs, minus 215. To miss the playoffs, plus 164. Points, 96.5. Plus 100 to go over the number, minus 128 to go under the number. Last year, the Kings were... Oh, man. My website just completely switched standings to this year. So now everyone is just 0 and 0. I'll have to look up what they were last year. But while I do that, that was really weird. What do you see in the 24-25 Los Angeles Kings?
Well, I got you on that. Last year, they were 44, 27, and 11, 99 points, made the playoffs. As far as what I have for them this year, the thing about this Kings team, their defense is insane. I mean, I don't think anything, like coaching changes, I don't think it's going to matter. That defense is going to be impossible and frustrating, and you don't want to play against it. The problem with this Kings team and why I think they're an honest to God 94-point team, wildcard contender, just exactly where I have them. That offense is so mediocre, and when they face tougher teams, the offense is non-existent, and that's the bottom line. They need guys to step up. They need more scoring in big games against tougher teams if they want to take that leap to become an 100-point team, to become a division title contender, to become a true conference contender. You need more. I'm not just going to pin it on a guy like Byfield. He's not the only one who isn't producing. So until I see more from this offense, I don't think it's going to come this year. They could prove me wrong. I hope not. I hate that goal horn. I'm going to. That's about it. You know, they just.
Lost you there for a sec, Andre. What did you just say?
Not enough scoring. Card. Not enough scoring against the tougher teams. Not consistent enough. Just day in, day out. So they need more scoring. And I mean, I think there's a path for this Kings team to be really good and win the division and surprise a lot of people. Just need to see it first. That's where I'm at with this team.
Yeah, so players in: Darcy Kemper, Joel Edmondson, Warren Fogle, Tanner Jeannot, Caleb Jones, Burrows, Studnicka, and Godwin. Players out: Matt Roy, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Cam Talbot, Victor Arvidsson, Carl Grunstrom. I don't know, man. I'm out on this team already before the season's even started. I agree with you what you're saying with the defense. Absolutely. And remember, like last year, we talked about this a lot last year, where their defensive schemes are just always airtight. Like they're a really, really strong defensive team, not only with the players that they have, but just the way that they play the game. Now, Drew Doughty's going to be out for a couple months, which sucks. I haven't seen a concrete timeline on when he is returning. But I'm with you when it comes to that forward group. I mean, you know, Kopitar, Kempe, Lafreniere, Fiala, Fogle, I think is a really good addition. Really good. He was really strong for the Oilers last year. Quentin Byfield had a really strong year last year. They just paid him too, so we'll see what happens there. And then you have a guy like Trevor Moore who just randomly scores 30 every year. I don't know, man. I can't get there anywhere with this team. I probably won't even bet it. What I will sprinkle on, though, and I'm not scared of it, is miss the playoffs is plus 164, which I think is way too generous. I mean, look, to me, Oilers, Knights, Canucks are your top three. That to me is kind of locked in stone. There are questions with the Canucks, which we'll get to later. But if I'm comparing questions between the Canucks and the Kings, I have way more questions about the Kings. And in the Central, which we talked about yesterday, there's some teams that will be competing for those final two wildcard spots as well. So to me, miss the playoffs. I don't hate it. Plus 164. I'm not going to touch the points. I think there's a reason why the over is plus 100 and the under is the side that is juiced. I'd probably lean under, but if I'm taking a bet, I'll just miss the playoffs and cheer against those god awful helmets for the entire year. And that's just how I'm going to roll.
Yeah, we're not a pro King show here, are we?
No, we're really not.
Love for LA.
No.
Anaheim seems nice.
Yeah, I mean, listen, LA's like, I got family in California, sprinkled throughout like Anaheim, LA, San Jose. But I got family there. I love me some California, but this team, I'm also not above, just kind of revealing, my true self is I hate those helmets. And I think it really I really think it has a play here. And they're kind of subtly taking over the league, and I'm super against it. I don't like it. And maybe that's why. Maybe that's why. Maybe it has nothing to do with the players. Maybe it's just my own stubbornness with regards to their fashion choices. I don't know.
Fair enough. I mean, it did sour you on the Canucks a little bit when they started wearing them.
Yeah.
You hate betting on them when they wear those.
Yeah, that let me down.
Man.
Yeah, that let me down. All right. Speaking of the Vancouver Canucks to win the Stanley Cup, I think this is the other thing that really made me not happy with the Kings is how are the Kings and the Canucks almost the exact same in a lot of these odds? I don't really understand it. Plus 2,300 to win the Stanley Cup, plus 1,100 to win the conference, plus 410 to win the division, minus 265 to make the playoffs, plus 200 to miss the playoffs, points 97.5 to go over the number is minus 113, to go under the number is the same. Last year 50, 23 and 9 with 109 points. I'll just call this out right now. Full disclosure, we changed streaming platforms, and for some reason I can't have multiple browsers up on my computer or else my camera won't work. I don't know. If you're like a techie out there, please message me because I have no idea. So I'm like going off my phone here, and it just is what it is. Point being, players in: Jake DeBrusk, Daniel Sprong, Vincent Desharnais. Players out: Lindholm, Zadorev, Cole, DeSmith, and Mikheyev. What do you see from the 24-25 Vancouver Canucks?
I love everything about this team, but the question everyone's going to have, Thatcher Demko.
Yes.
Is he going to be healthy enough? Is he going to be the same? With Casey DeSmith gone, I know I'm not going to sit here and pretend like he lit up the world last year, but he was a serviceable backup.
He's a good backup.
There's a lot of questions about the most important part of a hockey team, the rock, the guy that bails you out. If Demko returns to 85% of who he was, this Canucks team will be fine. They will have another 100-point season. They don't need much more from him than that. If he doesn't, it could be a long year. They could miss the playoffs, even with as good as that offense is. I mean, that skater room in general. And I think Jake DeBrusk was a very good addition to this team. It's just, it all hinges on the goalie. I'm going to back the guy. I like Demko. I think he's really good. I think people are blowing this whole thing back, be as sharp as ever. I'm going to take the over on the points. I think it's another 100-point season for the Canucks. They do not defend their division title, but they make the playoffs and they win a playoff series or two. Maybe not two. They win a playoff series, but I got him over 100 points. I'm trusting Demko to come back and be sharp. With this offense, this power play, when they're clicking, they're nasty.
Oh, big time. I think, yeah, the over the point total, like 97.5 minus 113. I think there is a path, like you said, where they go under that number, but I do think they go over again. I like a long shot sprinkle on the division plus 410. I do think it's the Oilers, it's the Knights, it's the Canucks, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Canucks won the division. I mean, I can see all 3 of those teams being lockstep the whole year. I mean, you said it, man. Like, the biggest question here is the goaltending, right? With Demko, what's going to happen? There's just different reports every single day about what this guy's going through. It's something that he's going to be dealing with for the rest of his life now. Like, we just don't really know what's going on fully with Thatcher Demko. Shelov's was a revelation last year in the playoffs. He was awesome. What's that mean? Is he going to come in here, and start 55 games if Demko's out? Like, no, I don't see that happening. So I'm with you. I think the goaltending really is the only real question with this team. I mean, like you said, the offense is super potent. On defense, I mean, Hughes, Hronix, Susie, Myers, Desharnais coming into the fold now. That's a really good defensive unit. And I think on offense, like, they're going to score a bunch of goals. So to me, really, that's the real question. It is the goaltending, and it's a big one. The goaltending isn't the third line of the defense pairing. Like, the goaltending is obviously a big deal. So to me, that's the real question here, is what's going to happen with the goaltending. But I do think they have enough firepower and a strong enough defense to kind of withstand whatever the goaltending situation looks like. The playoffs is where that'll come into a problem. You can only kind of stem the tide for so long. But I do like a little sprinkle on the division at plus 410, and I'll take the over on the points as well. All right, moving on. Seattle Kraken plus 7,000 to win the Stanley Cup, plus 3,500 to win the division, plus 3,500 to win the conference, plus 1,500 to win the division. To make the playoffs, plus 140. To miss the playoffs is minus 180. Points over 86.5 is minus 125. To go under the number is minus 102. Last year, 34, 35, and 13, 81 points. So a full 5.5 points more this year is where the total is at. What do you see out of the 24-25 Seattle Kraken? Actually, quickly, sorry, I will give out players in, players out, players in. Brandon Montour, Chandler Stevenson, 2 really good players. Players out: Thomas Tatar, Jason Schultz, Yamamoto is out as well. What do you see out of the 24-25 Seattle Kraken?
Yeah, so I think I can speak for you here just a little bit. We're kind of shaky on 3 teams in this division, that being the Kings, the Flames, and the Kraken, right? We kind of don't know what's going to happen with them.
Yeah.
Looking at this Kraken team, I feel like it was going to definitely be better than last year. It's going to be the Kraken. If one of them is going to challenge for a wild card spot over the Kings, assuming they were the last team. They weren't the last team in, but we're having this the last team in this year, roughly projection wise, and you have to sub them out for somebody. I would take the Kraken personally. I think that top line, no one's crazy. There's no McDavid, Pastrnak, whatever on that top line. I think they just work. They just do it. McCann, Beniers, and Borkstrand. So I really like that top line. It kind of hurts when you don't have a superstar per se, especially when need that big moment. You need to overcome that last obstacle. But I think throughout the regular season, that those 3 in particular will bring this team further than they had last year. They've had some good additions. They just, after they were supposed to back up making their first ever playoff appearance in 22-23. It's for a lot of last year. But I think what I liked about this Kraken was that they showed fight. even when they were pretty much down and out. I like that, they had some hot stretches. They showed flashes of the team who they were. They just had way too many long losing streaks. They couldn't stop the bleeding. I don't think that happens this year. I think the top line, drags them to a few wins that end some losing streaks. I think they pick up a few points here and there that last year they were just falling apart for. I would take the over on their points. I think this is a team that's going to scratch 90 this year. I might sprinkle the playoffs. I'm not sold on it. I think they're in that competition with the Kings and, a few of those central teams for that last wild card spot or just a wild card spot. There's a lot of uncertainty in that 7-8 range in the West, but I wouldn't be afraid of the Kraken to make the playoffs. I think it's a 90-point team this year.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I don't really know what to make of this Kraken team too much. I think obviously Montour, really good defenseman on a Stanley Cup winning team. Obviously Chandler Stevenson, really good player on a Stanley Cup winning team a couple years ago. I just don't think, at least from an offensive standpoint, you add a guy like Stamkos, you're automatically better. Stevenson, good player. Is it the same with him? I don't really know that. I'm not too sure what the answer is to that question. Also, live update: Buffalo Sabres survived the first period. It is 0-0 in Prague. Getting the live updates for you. Plus 114 now. Buffalo is on the money line. Minus 146 are the Devils on the money line. Yeah, I mean, listen, I like that top line a lot. I think Beniers had a really good rookie year, really dropped off last year, right? Is that a sophomore slump? Will he bounce back this year? They paid him like he's going to bounce back this year. Jordan Eberle, really, really good player in his day. Is he the same player? What can he contribute? I just, to me, there's just too many question marks to really bet this team seriously. I do think the defense is good with Dunn, Larson, Montour, Grubauer and Decord. It's a weird dynamic when I have more faith in your backup than I do in your starting goaltender. No offense to Grubauer. I just think Joey Decord had a great year last year, and he's just one of those backup goalies like a Brossoit, like a Thompson, where it's like, hey, if that guy's in the net, you're not really worrying about it. I'm kind of staying away from this team overall. I do think plus 140 is a good price to make the playoffs. It's just like, if I have to choose between the Kraken and the Kings, I don't know. I can't really say for sure. I do think with the points, 86.5, the problem is we're looking at these teams and we're looking at the projections, and if I keep giving overs to everybody, one of these teams has to go under. They're taking points from somebody. I don't know even if they hit 88 points, you're still hitting over, right? So I do think over is the proper lean, but I don't have a strong opinion of this team kind of one way or the other. I do think that they made the team better, but like I said, adding Chandler Stevenson, is it going to, make them 7 points better? I don't know. So that's kind of where I lean with this team. All right, next up, one of the more intriguing teams in the division for me, and I'm curious to see what Andre thinks about this. We've talked about this over the past couple weeks, but the Calgary Flames, the Sea of Red, plus 17,000 to win the Stanley Cup, plus 9,500 to win the conference, plus 3,400 to win the division, playoffs plus 280 to miss the playoffs, minus 390, over 81.5 points, minus 115 to go under the number is minus 111. Last year, the Flames 38, 39, and 5 with 81 points, right on the nose. While I pull this up here, what do you see out of the 24-25 Calgary Flames?
Yeah, the way you feel about the Kraken, where you just really don't know what to do with this team, that's kind of how I feel about the Flames. And outside of the defensive top pair, I think this is a weak, back six, and then you take away Markstrom, a really good goalie.
Yep.
Suddenly, I think they're going to be leaking a lot of goals out of nowhere. I mean, I don't think there's a team that's trying to compete anyway. Kind of the moves they've made or didn't make last year and this year kind of project that, if you will. They won't say it out loud probably, but that's the feeling I'm getting. They do have some very nice players. They have 3 really good centers, I would say. But unless they're banking on a rookie to pretty much make their season, right? I mean, in net. And I don't know if I really trust that. They should have traded Markstrom during last season. I guess it really doesn't make a difference at this point. We're talking the past, but I don't think this is a maybe squeaks over that point total, like 82, 83. I don't have them higher than that, though. I would trust the under more. I think this is a roughly 500 team. Just too many goals you're going to give up, too many points you're going to lose, because you can't really stop anybody from scoring. It's pretty important.
Yeah, it's pretty key to stop goals. And I also don't know if anyone else caught that, but I just had like boogers fly out of my nose. So I don't know if it was caught on camera or not. We'll see. Might have exposed myself unnecessarily, but that's just how it rolls. So, and you know what? Maybe someone catches it, puts it online, and maybe my boogers make us go viral. So, hey, you get the breaks you can get. So for me, this Calgary Flames team, I find very, very interesting. I think the point that you made about the goaltending cannot be denied. I mean, you take out Markstrom. Now, this Wolf kid, he's been coming up for the last few years. A lot has been made of him. A lot of people don't like his size, but other people think that this goalie can be a number 1 goaltender in the league for a long time. So you don't really know what you're getting from the kid. Vladar, you do know what you're getting from Vladar, and that is you have no idea what you're getting. Like, you know that it's just like kind of a coin flip every night with Vladar, and that's just kind of the way it is. But Dustin Wolf, like a lot of people who are way smarter than me when it comes to goaltending, think that this kid can be a real player. So who knows kind of what's going on there. I think that this team is in a really, really good position. And this is what I mean. Are they going to make the playoffs? Probably not. I think plus 280 it is worth a sprinkle, in my opinion. As far as the points go, 81.5, I'm taking the over. And what I really like about the situation that this team is in is nobody expects them to be good, including their own fans. Like the Canadian hockey fans, we're smart. Like, if you tell us we are not going to be good for a while and this is what it is, then we'll take it, and it's completely fine. Calgary fans know what this team is, and so nobody is expecting the playoffs from this team. Nobody is expecting this team to go on a deep run. Nobody is expecting this team to win very many games. And I think for a team with this talent in a passionate fan base like Calgary, I think that's a really good spot for this team to be in. I mean, you look at the players that they have. I mean, Sharon Govich has made really good strides over the last couple of years. You have Nazem Kadri, right? Jonathan Huberdeau, who not just dropped off since coming to Calgary, he's dropped off by like 60 points. Like, if he can get back like 20, 30 points, like, is like Jonathan Huberdeau just not a good player anymore? Like, he goes from almost winning the Hart to just completely falling off the face of the earth. You have Kadri, you have Huberdeau, you have Pospisil, you brought Mantha in. Backlund. Coleman is like a really good goal scorer. I feel like you have the players where if things go your way, I think this team can be kind of sneaky good. And I think a lot of people, it's just a really good spot. I mean, Andre, you know sports, man. You watch, like, it's just a good position to have a team where nobody believes in you, including our own fans, and you're not going out there trying to prove anything, right? You're just playing hockey. So I think it's a good spot for them. I'm not recommending playoffs as a financial decision, although I do like plus 280 as a nice long shot bet. But I like the over at like over 81.5 points at minus 115. And don't be surprised in March if we're looking at this team a couple points out and maybe they can make a push. I don't know. I'm not as down on this Calgary team as everybody else seems to be, including you, Andre. It'll be our little beef all year long.
I mean, our love affair last year got out of hand, so I need to reset.
Yeah, you did need to wheel it back a little bit.
I just want to just real quick give a shout out to Joe, though, for pointing out the best bet of all time, the USA winning the Stanley Cup, because America, or hockey is America's sport. And we have, what, 32 years running now?
What's the odds on that? Do you have them there?
I don't remember.
It has to be available.
We pulled it up in the Atlantic. Oh, Canadian team versus the field. The field's minus 300. Canadian team's plus 235. I found it.
Oh, that should be, those odds should be way more favorable to the US. No, because like, yeah, I mean, for a Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup should be in the like 500s, man. Just because who's winning the Stanley Cup in Canada? You have the Oilers, and I mean, I guess the Maple Leafs, but we've all seen that movie.
I mean, the Oilers are odds-on favorites. The Leafs are, what, fourth? They're tied for fourth. Seems fair. The Canucks are up there, too.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you already know it's coming back home.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's a safe bet. Minus 360 odds, though, that's a little bit cowardly. You gotta, you know, that's, but yeah, shout out to Joe. Always
I'll parlay it. I'll parlay it with Bama to make the playoffs in college football, you know.
I wonder what that would be.
That's probably like minus 10,000. It's a lot better than Anaheim's odds of making the playoffs.
Well, and that's why you're a professional. That's why you get paid the big bucks, not from me, but from somebody. The Anaheim Ducks plus 40,000 to win the Stanley. Now, okay, listen. Okay, I'm gonna get through this, and then I got a question for you before you even dive into what you think of all this disaster. Plus 40,000 to win the Stanley Cup, plus 15,000 to win the conference, plus 15,000 to win the division, make the playoffs, plus 870, miss the playoffs, minus 2,500. Points, 72.5. Over is minus 104, under is minus 122. Now, my question to you, Andre. All right. Now, last year, 27, 50, and 5. 59 points last year. So 59 points, 72.5. That's a lot. My question to you, Andre, what are the Anaheim Ducks doing? And do they know what they're doing? Because the San Jose Sharks, who we're going to talk about here in a few minutes, have almost the exact same odds for those first three categories. and their point total is 8 points less than the Ducks. Yet those first three category, the odds are the exact same. I think we know what the Sharks are doing. The Sharks are going to be fine. Maybe not for a few years, but the Sharks have a good-looking future on their hands. Now, while the Ducks do have some good players, young players, starting in the roster and coming up, do we know what the Ducks are doing, and do they know? Andre, bro, you there? There you are.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah. The Zegras, he's cool. The kids love him. He does fun stuff on the ice. Uniforms, the logo, all that's sick. They can go to Disneyland after they lose, cheer themselves up. It's Galaxy's Edge. There's some positives going in Anaheim. The pond, if you will, the Honda Center. John went there.
Yeah.
Or he drove by it, It's not awful. Frank Vetrano, he'll be good trade bait at the deadline, right? It's not all terrible, but in my opinion, this is the worst team in the Western Conference. The worst team in the league. You're asking them to get 14 more points than last year? Not a chance. They didn't do anything to improve much. I'm taking the under on the points. I mean, I don't think I have to talk about anything else that they're doing, but are they going to stop anybody from scoring? No. Are they going to have competitive scoring? Some nights, maybe. They do have some top enough, and they're going to be, for as often as they're going to randomly have like 4 or 5 goal nights because Frank Vetrano's, Trevor Zegras, Adam Henrique, whatever, Ryan Strome actually hits the net for once. For as often as they're going to have just twice because they're playing a team that's flat out better and they can't manufacture anything. And for as good as some of their top 6 may be, they're not as good as the rest of the league's top 6. This is a team that they were bottom 3 in scoring last year. They were bottom 3 in goals against last year. They didn't improve noticeably in any area. Awful on special teams. I just don't see any light for the Ducks, honestly. I'm fading them. So under 72.5, easy, eyes closed, placing like 1,000 on that.
Yeah, listen, man. They have players that are nice, and you look on. I mean, Gauthier, like that guy has to come out flying this year. Demands a trade out of Philly. The Ducks trade one of their best young defensemen to get him. He comes up. Carlson's a really, really good young player. Killorn, savvy veteran guy. Vetrano, Strome, Terry, Zegras, McTavish, Fabry. Like, they have good players. It's just as a unit, I just don't understand. And I think that your roster is too in the middle, but you play not in the middle at all. So I just feel like they should shed as much of it as they can. Defensively speaking, Fowler and, Gudis, who's the new captain, shout out to him. That's pretty much all you got. Gibson starting the season on the IR, and Dostal had some great moments last year. I still will never forgive him. I added him to my lineup because he was amazing against my Maple Leafs, and then he proceeded to allow 8 goals and against, I think it was Colorado, and the Ducks didn't even pull him. They're like, sorry, dude, like this is your lot tonight. We got nobody. You're in it, and he allowed all 8 goals. So yeah, dude. I mean, I'll take the under the points as well. They have talent, like you said. I guess there's a world where they can get over that number. But I personally don't see it. And I also think that everybody else generally speaking, obviously not everybody else, but the majority of the division, I think, got better. And the conference too. Like, I think like Nashville got better, Colorado still Colorado, Dallas is still Dallas in their own division. San Jose still not a good team. Sorry guys, I got to be a father for a second. Hey Boston, thank you. Father of the year right there. Was calm and cool under pressure. Didn't lose my cool. I can't say the same for the Ducks, man. I mean, the Sharks even the Sharks, they're a bad team, but they got better, right? Like, I don't know. I'll take the under as well. We've talked about Anaheim for way too long. Moving on to the San Jose Sharks. Also, plus 40,000 to win the Stanley Cup. Also, plus 15,000 to win the division or conference, and the division for that matter, plus 15,000 as well. To make the playoffs, plus 1,700. To miss the playoffs, minus 10,000. Points, 64.5. To go over the number is minus 122. To go under the number is minus 104. Last year, the Sharks, 1954-9. 47 points last year. Our San Jose Sharks. Players in. Give me 2 seconds for this. Did they even bring anybody in? I don't even know. Players in. Well, they got Celebrini in, of course. Carl Grundstrom, Tyler Toffoli, Alexander Wenberg, Cody Ceci, Yaroslav Askarov, which after all of that, get me out of Nashville. I want to be in the NHL. They sent him down to the minors last night. So, that's where we are. Players out, Philip Zadina, Mike Hoffman, Kyle Burrows, and Barbanoff. What do you see out of the San Jose Sharks this year, bro? Are they going over? Are they going almost 20 points better than last year?
I think I'm going to take it. I think they improved. Definitely. I don't think they're good. I'm not going to put that out
They're
there.
definitely better. You're right. Yep.
Celebrini, Toffoli, Wenberg, Ceci, Grundstrom. I mean, Barclay Goodrow. Those are all guys that, well, we don't know what Celebrini yet, but those are all guys that are talented. Or in the case of Goodrow, he's just a proven winner. I think they established an identity and culture this offseason, or they laid the foundation for what they want to be moving forward. And I think as the season progresses, it's going to be more noticeable. They're going to be more challenging. So Sharks team to be 20 points better. I think they're going to finish ahead of the Ducks. We've already talked about that in the Western Conference preview, the full rankings. So I'm taking the over on the 64.5 points. I think they can scratch 70 for sure. Not going to make the playoffs, obviously, or a division conference Stanley Cup. You can throw that out the window unless you just want to sprinkle some fun money on it. And it's worth it. You know why? They swept the Blues last year. So they're capable of beating somebody. They're capable of having somebody's number. They also started 0-10-1 last year. You have to imagine they start better than 0-10-1. They're going to finish better than they did. Because, I mean, you're an eighth of the way through the season, and it's just gone. You have 1 point to show for it. That's very far behind the eight ball. So I expect more from the Sharks this year. I think they're a 70-point team. I think they're seventh in the division ahead of the Ducks. They don't have 3 or 4, however many 10-game losing streaks. Oh my God, they were a slug through times last year.
Well, I'm really excited. I'm really excited because I watch a lot of NHL, and those late nights, there's only a handful of games on in the evenings, right? And now I don't have to shake my head when the Sharks are on TV. They're actually a team that I want to watch and I want to see. I have a prediction here, and I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. Like you said, division conference Stanley Cup, you're donating to your favorite sports book at that point. But I think that by December the 1st, this team is going to be in the mix, and there will be talking heads across the continent that will be saying, are the San Jose Sharks for real? I think they're going to start. I think they're going to win some games. I think they're going to be in the mix to start the year. And that's going to be the topic of conversation. Did we underestimate the Sharks? What are they? I'm really excited. Obviously, Celebrini is the crown jewel. He's hurt right now. We have no real clarity as to what state he'll be in at the start of the year. I'm really looking forward to watching Will Smith. Really, really good college player. Not the Will Smith. Or the baseball player, for that matter. We've been over this. There's
I know.
Yeah, there's a million Will Smiths out there.
Or the
I can't wait to watch this kid play. He one of the best college scorers that we've seen in the last few years. Really, really good young player. By all accounts, he is going to be right there with Celebrini as the 1-2 punch down the middle of the ice for years to come. I'm really excited to see there. And like you said, man, Toffoli plays on a different team every single year. All that guy does is score goals. He's always scoring goals. Their offense has gotten better. Their defense is still fairly shaky. But this is still a promising young team, man. And I'll take the over on the points as well. The biggest thing with this team is just the goaltending still, right? You have Vanacek, you have Blackwood. I'm surprised that Askarev is starting the season in the minors. I really thought that we get to see him play, and we might still. But yeah, man, I'm excited about the Sharks. I'll take the over on the points, and we'll see what happens.
And I just, I threw a lot of punches today. So I will say, just while the Sharks are still fresh on the mind, that the Shark Tank is a scary place, and the Rangers did blow a 2-goal lead and lose to the Sharks last year. So don't feel bad if you lose to the Sharks or the Ducks or the Blues or any of these bad teams.
No. If you're the 23, I agree with you on most things, but listen, man, if you're the 23-24 St. Louis Blues, you absolutely are hard on yourself for getting swept by the Sharks. Like, didn't the Blues miss the playoffs by like 3 points? And they got swept by the Sharks?
I think it was more than that.
I don't know, man.
Because the last team in was the Knights, right? They had 98. No, it wasn't Knights. They had 98.
I gotta look this up for myself.
I know the Blues, it did cost them 6 points in theory, which would have tied them for the last.
Yeah. Well, either way, I think if you're the Blues, you absolutely have to be hard on yourself for getting swept by the Sharks. You can't get swept by the Sharks if you're trying to make the playoffs.
Well, that's the thing. They weren't. They got lucky.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I think you feel about the Blues like I do about the Kings. Like, what are we even watching? All right. That is it for us. Now, listen, the game is being played as we speak, so we're not going to do a best bets segment on that one. I'm just looking up. Do you have the score right in front of you? I'm just looking up where we're at here.
Oh, yeah, it's still 0-0.
0-0. The odds on FanDuel are locked, so I can't tell you what the odds are. I'm assuming they're close to what they were before. But Andre, throwing you a curveball here, unprepared, but I know you're prepared because I know you. The New York Yankees, your Yankees are making their playoff not playoff debut, but you know what I mean. They're playing the first game of the 2024 playoffs. What do you got, man? You got some bets for us? Doesn't have to be Yankees. You got some baseball bets for us? What do you got?
I do. I don't trust the Tigers or the Guardians offensively. For the entire series, really, I do. I know the Guardians have a shaky rotation, but I like the under in Guardians Tigers pretty much start to finish, especially in Detroit. That's more of a pitcher's part, but progressive as well. So under 7, 6.5, 7.5, whatever your sportsbook has it, I really like that. I think game 1 for the Phillies is theirs to lose. I mean, Senga's really good. Haven't seen him in a while. I know Wheeler's nasty. He had a 2-3-1 at home this year. He pitched well against the Mets this year. The Mets have played a lot of baseball recently. I know they got a much-needed off day, kind of reset the bullpen, but fatigue might be a factor. Philly's going to be rowdy. I like the Phillies -1.5 today. Really don't know what to do with Padres-Dodgers, I'm going to be honest with you. As far as the Yankees...
Padres tonight.
You're on the Padres today. I like Cease there, but I like Yamamoto. I really don't know what to do with that series. I might let that one breathe until game 2. I know for the Yankees-Royals, I think the Yankees have to win tonight. I don't really trust them against Reagans. They struggled against left-handed starters all season long. Yankees team's a tough place to play. So game 2 might be tough for them, even with Rodon pitching well, even with the Royals' struggles offensively on the road. Garrett Cole has to shove tonight. They got to get a few against Waka, get to that bullpen, especially with the off day. On Sunday, you just got to see those guys at least once. So the Yankees have to show up tonight, and I think they will, based on the Royals offense we saw on the road all season, based on the Royals offense we saw in Baltimore for the wild card series. I know they won, but they only scored 3 runs. So it's on Garrett Cole tonight to take it home. The offense should only need like 2 or 3 runs. Just looking ahead for that series, just being a Yankees fan, I think game 2 probably goes to Royals. The Yankees need game 3 against Lugo. They hit Lugo well in KC earlier this year. Game 4 in Kansas City got Garrett Cole on the mound again. I think you need to win that one. And I think the Yankees, they played the Royals pretty well in the regular season. They hit well in Kansas City. They hit well against them for the most part all season. So I think 1, 3, and 4 are where the Yankees need to win. If it goes to a game 5, they might be in trouble because you got to see Reagans again, and it's going to be at home again. And lefties don't treat you well.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the Yankees, like you follow this much closer than I do, but just from looking at it here for the first time, to me, this is a must win for the Yankees tonight because you lucked out just how the rotation works, not having to play Reagans tonight. You have your best pitcher, maybe the best pitcher in baseball playing for you tonight. You got to get this win tonight. And I just think, listen, man, we've seen this over the last couple of years since this new wild card playoff series has been this whole kind of format. The teams that have the bye start slow in that second round. That's just kind of the way history has been. So for Dylan Cease tonight, again, like your best pitcher is on the mound. This is a game that I think the Padres can have. And I think that the betting odds kind of tell you that. Like for them to only be plus 118 and for the Dodgers to only be minus 138. I feel like that's kind of telling you something. So it's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. Baseball playoffs have been a lot of fun so far. And any world where the Detroit Tigers, that underdog story, where they can succeed, and any world where the Houston Astros are gone is pretty much, I mean, obviously I would love the Blue Jays to be a part of it, but don't even get me started on that nonsense. If you want a little comedy to kind of round out your morning and get you into the day, just watch some Blue Jays press conferences. Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro, just absolute clown show. I cannot believe it. And I can't even get started. We're going to wrap it up now because I'll be losing my mind very, very quickly. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. As always, we appreciate you. We'll be back next week to get started We're live every single day in the NHL regular season, Monday to Friday. We're going to go over some player props and some awards as well. Enjoy your Saturdays. Enjoy the rest of the hockey. We will see you next time.
Tage Thompson goal.